Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Roy Fox speaking. When I formed the Monsignor Band of hand-picked musicians, the question of the vocalist arose. Bill Harty, my drummer, and one or two of the boys in the band came to me and said that they knew a vocalist that was out of work at the time, hadn't been doing too well, but they would like me to hear him. So, of course, I took their suggestion, and they brought a singer along to me by the name of Allick Bowlly. So I listened to him, gave him a private audition, and sure enough, they were quite right about this, because I looked no further for a singer. I immediately signed him to join the band. It was always a pleasure working with Al. I can remember so distinctly that he always used to call me boss. Well, on opening night at the Monsignor, Al Bowlly was a distinct success.
You're the one I'm there for. I hope you care for me. Listen to my pleading, why you're the one I'm needing. I love you so sincerely. At last I've met my fate. I'm glad that I could wait until I found someone like you. You're the one I care for. You're the one I'm there for. I hope you care for me.
You're the One I Care For, with Roy Fox and his band. Although engaged on a full-time basis by Fox, in 1931 Al had many calls for his services and made many successes. Apart from Fox, he was used extensively by Noble and his new Mayfair Dance Orchestra, various combinations directed by Harry Hudson or Len Phillis, and many sides for the Piccadilly label, including Jack Leon, Walking My Baby Back Home. Here's the alternate pressing as the Alberta Dance Band on the Empire label.
Gee, but it's great after being out late, walking my baby back home. Arm in arm over meadow and farm, walking my baby back home. We go along harmonizing a song, or I'm reciting a poem. Hours go by and they give me the eye, walking my baby back home. We stop for a while, she gives me a smile and snuggles her head to my chest. We start into pet, and that's when I get her talcum all over my vest. After I kind of straighten my tie, she has to borrow my comb. One kiss, then I continue again, walking my baby back home.
And on Morris Winnick's Topical Tunes, one of our spots is Pardon Me, Pretty Baby.
How's your mother and your dad and your sis and your brother? Pardon me, who's another. Don't I look familiar to you? Happiness, there's no joy unless you shout for happiness all day through. Oh, sing, sing, let your voices ring, bid your troubles adieu. Take the joy that is meant for you. Don't sit in a corner like Jackie Horner, get where the bright lights are. Just look up high, search the sky, find your lucky star. Shout, shout, shout for happiness, there's no joy if you're blue. Shout for happiness all day through. Well, who do I see right in front of me but Max Goldie in the flesh? Hey, gosh, but you're looking well and full of spirits, too. No, I didn't say whiskey. Come on, Max, tell me, what makes you feel for happiness, huh? Been to see the Cup final. Oh, I can see it right in your eye. You're just dying for a drink, huh? Well, come on, let's go.
Shout for Happiness with the New Mayfair Dance Orchestra, which seems the right spot to have a word with the highly sought-after master of the muted trumpet himself, Max Goldberg.
Max Goldberg was one of the most valuable assets to any band, and there were few indeed with which he never played, and was in constant demand by recording managers such as Ray Noble for strengthening his brass section. No doubt any listener will be able to pick up Max and his muted trumpet in that blast record you heard with Shout for Happiness. Now, Max, this is rather an unusual record because Bowlly's approach to it is something I don't think I've struck in any other record made by the New Mayfair Dance Orchestra. Was this planned or was it spontaneous?
I think it was spontaneous, actually. It's a long time ago, but I think Al and I sort of worked so closely together that when he came on, it was a bit of a surprise to me, but I took it up from there when he said, we got none other but Max Goldberg here and blah, blah, blah. And I played as though I was speaking to him. We formed some sort of a duet, and I think it was spontaneous. And another reason why I think it was spontaneous is because Ray at the time didn't say anything. He just applauded it. So it must have been spontaneous as far as I can remember.
Oh, well, that blah, blah, blah didn't sound too much like your muted trumpet anyway. But from Bowlly's attitude, it seems you and he were in very good terms. Would that be so?
Yes. Matter of fact, he and I used to go to parties together. I remember once I became slightly inebriated, well, more than slightly, and he had to drive my car home. And he went on his merry way, and I met him 2 or 3 weeks after, and he said, don't you remember my driving you home? I says, I remember nothing, boy. I says, thanks very much for taking me home.
Now, as far as I'm aware, you were never employed as a musician in the same band as Al on a full-time basis. Would that be correct, Max?
Yes, that's true. We used to meet at the session and make the sessions and both go our different ways. But now and again, as I say, we got together. But apart from that, no, we were never employed in, shall I say, in the same job, getting the same money, as it were, at the same time.
Now, I do know, thanks to Brian Rust, that you were in the first 2 sessions Bowlly recorded for Roy Fox in January 1931. Now, did you see him only at the sessions, or did your paths cross very much in the social sphere? You mentioned the party, but was that the odd incident, or was it, on a fairly regular basis?
Well, that was the odd incident, and it happened a few years after I had recorded with Roy Fox. Before then, Al was playing with Fred Elizalde at the Savoy Hotel before he joined Fox, and I was playing in the opposite band, the Savoy Havana Band, at the Savoy Hotel at the same time. But I never came in contact with Al until I met him at the Ray Noble Sessions.
Good. Thanks very much, Max Goldberg.
I could reminisce a hell of a lot, Tiny, but I'll sign off now and say, treat Jack well, because he's a good friend of mine.
It certainly did the trick, because I'm now at Hendon with someone once described as the smallest man with the biggest instrument in the Roy Fox band, Tiny Winters. Tiny, could you take us back to the Fox era and tell me something of Al, please?
In the early 30s and before that, every year there used to be a big do put on in the Regent's Park. It was called the Theatrical Garden Party. All the show people in the West End, all the theatres used to take part in this, and each theatre used to be given a project to do to fit in with the programme, and it was their baby, and they would do all of the organising of that one particular thing and bring it to the Regent's Park and fit it into the programme. It was a marvellous do. The only thing was, it was out in the open air, which was rather dependent on the weather, and sometimes it got washed out, which was a pity. But anyway, the Roy Fox band around about 1932 was asked to take part, and before we went on to do our show, we were walking round the sideshows, and I had to go on the coconut shy, and I was doing rather well, and Al Bowlly joined me. He said, let's team up. Well, before long we had about 17 coconuts between us, and he said, let's come back to my place after the show and share them out. Well, this is what we did. We went back to his place, had some tea, and we were sharing these coconuts out. There was Al saying, one for you, one for me, and so on, until we got to the 17th. I don't know what we did with that one. We must have tossed up for it or something. But Al was like a little boy at times.
Goodnight, Sweetheart is probably the song most associated with Al Bowlly by the average person. Its composer, musical director Ray Noble, recorded this interview for Derek Chinnery of the BBC in 1956.
The first time I met Al Bowlly was shortly after he had first arrived in London. I was on the lookout for promising new singers and gave him several recording dates. He was so anxious to get the opportunity, he said yes to everything. And it was some time before I discovered he was singing in too high a key for his best tones. Following a summer engagement in Holland, I took Al to the States, where he became the featured singer with my band of what was then the most exclusive supper club in New York. He was already known there from our recordings, and his personal charm made new friends among the patrons. He was popular in the profession, too. The Tin Pan Alley men took to him at once, and so did musicians. Even the somewhat taciturn and reserved Glenn Miller, who was my second trombonist, admitted that Al Bowlly was a pretty good guy. Al himself was essentially a simple person. He saw the world only in black and white. If you were his friend, nothing was too good for you. If you were his enemy, well, look out. He was extremely generous and emptied his pockets to anyone with a hard luck story, and was forever bringing some strange character to me with the plea that we do something to help, in spite of the fact that many of his swans turned out to be geese. This simple sincerity was, to me, the most valuable quality of his singing. He believed what he sang. Sometimes when he had turned in a good performance on a song like The Very Thought of You, which has a lyric as sincere as I could make it, I've seen him turn away from the microphone with tears in his eyes.
How could I be lonely with a friend like you? For you're driving all my cares away. Never knew the sun shine for anyone just the way it seems to shine today. With your arms around me, I feel safe from every storm. Seems this world is only built for two. I just need you only. How could I be lonely, lonely with a little friend like you? I said, oh, lonely with a little friend like you. Friend like you, for you've driven all my cares away. Never knew the sun shine for anyone just the way it seems to shine today. With your arms around me, I feel safe from every storm. Seems this world is only built for two. I just need you only. How could I be lonely, lonely with a friend like you? I said, oh, lonely with a little friend like you.
How Could I Be Lonely, from the 20th of November 1930 with Noble's New Mayfair Dance Orchestra. And what do you think of the key setting?
Tiny, harking back to those early days, Roy Fox said Al was an instant success, but this did not mean he got special billing, or did it? Like, what was the real relationship between singers and the band?
You know, Jack, I think one of the things that needs ironing out as regards the position a vocalist held in the old days, sort of 1930, late 20s. When they made records, it was printed on the label, vocal refrain. This went on for some time, with lots of records being made with just that. No one knew who was singing it. This was the area that Al Bowlly came through on. And I think that because of this, and the fact it was not easy for a vocalist to get a job regular in those days, it gave Al that feeling that, I think anyway, he was lucky to be in a job.
What makes you so adorable, so charming and sweet? What can it be? Now won't you tell me? What makes you so adorable, your smile or your eyes? It's something I idolize. Why, every time I take a look at you, my heart misses a beat or two. You're the reason why the songbirds sing. You're an angel, you don't need wings. What makes you so adorable? Oh, I'd like to know. What makes me love you so?
Tiny, What Makes You So Adorable is labelled Roy Fox with vocal refrain, but it was cut on the 10th of June 1932 whilst Fox was convalescing in Switzerland and your friend Lou Stone was in charge of the Monsignor band. Lou and Al seemed to team pretty well, didn't they?
When he was at the Monsignor, there was no sort of big, I'm a great singer or anything like that. He just came to work, sang, no trouble. Never saw him pull any sort of temperamental things. And he always worked well with Lou. And I think that grounding of a sense of being unimportant, vocal refrain, not Al Bowlly sings. This came later with vocal refrain by Al Bowlly, things like that. But you see, it is one of those things that the public of today, if you start talking, they just visualise that vocalists sing from start to finish. They don't seem to realise, I mean, there's lots of people who haven't heard 78s. They don't know what they were like. And they judge purely on what they hear today. Vocalist, right, he's the guy who's the big noise. The musicians are just accompanying him. But in those days, the musicians were important, more important than the singer. And I thought I'd like to bring that up just to sort of maybe give some people an idea of what it was like if they didn't know.
As a matter of fact, Al's name was first shown on Nightfall, which was pressed on the 31st of October 1932 at the same session as Rain, Rain, Go Away, the first song Lou broadcast under his own name. His arrangement of Why Waste Your Tears, which was on the back of the same record, F3233, won great praise from its composer, Valery Holstius.
Lovely you, underneath the wreath of heaven's pale blue. You are poetry, you are melody, you're a prayer that's answered. I'm enchanted, nightfall and dreams, lovely dreams, underneath the wreath of golden moonbeams. In those hours